Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 125 of The Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, manual labor, and not playing video games at all because we're adults now. I'm your just exhausted host, Logan.
And I am his equally exhausted host, Adam.
You see, school's supposed to prepare us for real life after high school. I feel like my high school inadequately prepared me for life because I wasn't expecting to fight mice this week, to lift heavy things, to destroy pool tables, and to get sunburned this week. No one told me ministry was going to have this stuff. Was not expecting it this week, man.
Yeah. But have you ever felt so manly?
You know, I will say this. No. I'm not going to lie. When I was like picking up chunks of concrete and bricks and stuff and hauling it around and tossing it about places to and fro, I was like, I'm not going to lie. I feel incredibly manly right now. I'm standing around, got work gloves on, got my beard just with the sweat dripping in it, and I'm like throwing stuff around. I'm like, I feel kind of manly right now. Not gonna lie. And then I see a mouse and I'm like, nah! You know.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, nah.
Like the feeling of hard manual labor, building something, destroying something, or even killing something, even like a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they're alive and you freak out, it kind of brings you back down to earth.
So here's a fun story about this mouse. So, dear listeners, I mean, of course, you know I'm a youth pastor. So one of the things we were doing, we were rearranging the youth room upstairs, and we kind of disturbed some mice, and so they were scattering around and stuff, and we laid out traps and all that. And of course the traps have the sticky like residue on it to catch the mice. Well, I caught a mouse yesterday, and one of the a strap from like a backpack or something was stuck to the sticky goo stuff. So I was trying to get that off the trap so I could get the trap that has the mouse on it into a trash can or something. Well, at one point, like I got a hold of the mouse so he doesn't run away, and I got a hold of the board and the backpack strap, and I was trying to pull it away. And at one point, I'm like, I don't feel the mouse's heartbeat anymore. And I realized I basically crushed it accidentally because I was pulling so hard on the stuff that I killed it. And I'm like, well, that solves that, I guess. Now I feel like a horrible person. So it's weird how, yeah, it's just a weird thing. I feel like there's a sermon illustration in there somewhere. But yeah, so that's been my week. I am no longer a platinum trophy hunter. I am a mouse hunter.
Well, I can tell you something fun about my week. I was going to mention this and kind of what I've been playing, but I'll go ahead and mention it now. You know, I played some games, but what I've really been doing is playing with my official state, you know, I don't want to say ordained, but like we finalized Ren's adoption is what I'm trying to say for lack of better words.
Congrats, bro.
So no more messing around with home studies. No more messing around with documents and papers. But she is officially a Sutherland. And it's cool because I'll just share this kind of the story of the courthouse. So you go, when you finalize the adoption, you go in, at least in our situation, and our lawyer it's us and our lawyer and the judge. And so he kind of breaks it down. He asks us some questions, just some legalese. Then he begins asking us, okay, how are we bonding? Why are we adopting and stuff like that? And that was it was good and all. And I mean, we get choked up on, you know me, I'm an emotional guy.
True.
And so I'm like crying left and right. Just talking about we're adopting because of, you know, our faith in Christ and the adoption that we have into his family. And so just kind of breaking that. It was fun being able to give testimony to that in the court for why we're doing this, for, you know, why we're adopting Ren. But then at the end, they bring in all of our family there to kind of hear the pronouncement. So the judge begins going, it's not lengthy, it's maybe 2 or 3 minutes talking about the finality of the adoption and how, you know, when things are good, she's your daughter. When things get harder, when she's maybe a teenager going through hard times, when she's 18, when she gets married, no matter what the situation is, from this day forward, she's now your daughter.
Right.
And so you need to, you know, there's no give backs, there's no take backs. This is the official pronouncement that Ren is adopted into your family. And so, as I'm hearing this, of course, it's super emotional because we've been going through this journey now for 2.5 years to get to finalization. We've had her since January. So that's kind of felt like the end. But this is like the really end because, we went through a failed match. We went through waiting for so long and just feeling like, is this ever going to end? Is there ever going to be that thing where we don't have to look over our shoulder anymore? So there was a part of that, and at the end of at the court date, it just felt good, that weight off your shoulders. But honestly, as I'm hearing this judge make this pronouncement, as much as we were there about Ren, man, having someone in authority position who has the power to make law, to change law, to make something official and legal, there was power in that. And I couldn't help but my mind run and just be listening as if God was saying this to me.
Come on.
Adam, you are mine. There's nothing you can do to change that. This is a legal changing. You cannot rebel enough to lose your name as my son. You can't earn enough. When you get married, when you join another family, you are still my son first and foremost. And it was like, that was, honestly, as much as I was crying about Ren joining our family officially, I was just overwhelmed with hearing this authority person, this judge, pronouncing my daughter as mine. But more than anything, it was as if God was reminding me of, Adam, I have done this in your life. I have pronounced you as my son. You have all my rights. You are an heir with Christ. And it was, chill bumps. It was so cool because, we preach on these things. We talk about these things, adoption, but I've never seen it from that actual authority side. Yeah. Hearing a judge make a legal claim and change, saying, what was one thing is now another thing. I'd never been in that situation. And so hearing it from that perspective with Ren joining our family, it just brought a newness to my adoption into God's family. And dude, it felt so good. Just hearing her say that, but thinking, this is what God says to you, Adam, and has said and says to you every day of, you are my son. You can't lose it. You can't get away. You're mine. And the finality to that was, man, chill bumps.
Well, dear listeners, that was the Reformed Gamers episode 125. Thank you for, dude.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's some fire right there. That'll preach. That was good.
Yeah, so we're extremely grateful. We had a lot of family and friends that came, celebrated, had a party for her at our house. So it was just a special day of, she is now Ren Sutherland.
Amen, dude.
Getting the birth certificates, there's nothing that can change that. And so it's really cool, kind of this journey, that part of the journey. We're still figuring out things, but that side of this process, this journey being completed. So thank you to all the dear listeners, the patrons. A lot of you guys have given, have prayed, have walked with us. Thank you. It means so much to me and my wife and our family. And so, you guys have walked with us in many ways through this process. So a major, major thank you, as this now is completed. God has brought us to the end of that adoption journey. And now we just get to be mom and dad, which is awesome.
It's going to be awesome, dude. Proud of you guys. Excited for you guys. Speaking of the patrons, this is something new since we changed up our Patreon awards. But we're going to have our Patreon thank you shout out at the end of the show. We're going to have, we're going to have our gift card giveaway here, which actually we'll do it right now because I've got the names. I'll flip these around and pick a name out of a part of my desk because I don't have my hat with me, but that's okay. We've got, what do we got here? All right, Eric Bryant, good sir, you are the winner of the gift card. I will hit you up on your Patreon messages and hit you up with some stuff. We'll talk about some things and see what we can do to hook you up. Hey, thank you for supporting us on patreon.com. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into a little bit of housekeeping real quick, brought to you by Richard Marroquin. Thank you for supporting us at the $25 tier on patreon.com/the Reformed Gamers. Doing this out of order because I was going to do the gift card giveaway It's been a long week, dear listeners. I tell you
Yeah.
what. Oh man. So let me write down these notes. There we go. Okay, so Adam, let's just get into the show before I just light this episode on fire and turn it to a raging dumpster. Hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers. We like to talk we do that. Forget it. Adam, good sir, this episode, what have you been playing? Brought to you by Luke Strain, man. What have you been playing?
Yeah, man. Logan's tired. I'm tired. We just had all of our students return this last Friday. So it's been a week of getting back in the groove, hanging out, meeting new students, learning names, finalizing adoptions. Life's been crazy. So gaming hasn't been, necessarily what I wanted. And we talked about this during the burnout episode of my attitude has not been perfect necessarily because of that. And so God continuing to show me my selfishness and my sin, but I think more than not, God has kept me from, freaking out or being bitter or any of that. But my wife has also been very gracious. There was one night where I'm like, Hannah, I know I've been busy. I've put in a 60-hour week, but I just need to play Fortnite with some bros. And she's like, okay. So I played a little bit of Fortnite, not too much recently, but still the main game I've been playing is Salt and Sanctuary. Progressing slowly but surely. It's one of those games where I think I've talked about this maybe last episode where you play it and it's so frustrating. Then you get your breakthrough. Then you get to the next save point and you can upgrade or you beat that boss and you're like, all right, I just accomplished something. So, and I'm figuring out more and more just about the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in those Dark Soul, Demon Soul type games. They don't give you much advice. You're just kind of figuring it out. And so I'm finally figuring out more in regards to even the weapons. I had this really big, hammer for a long time, but it had, a red line through it. So I didn't think that I could use it. All that red line means is I have to use two hands. So I can't wield it one hand. And so I'm like, oh, crap, this thing is, way more powerful than anything I've been using. So now I'm destroying some of the bad guys in the certain area that I'm at. So figuring out that stuff has been good.
You just taught me
and
something.
Really just, you push it. And I think some of this is like Dead Cells, even though I haven't played it. You kind of go and it's kind of like that risk reward. Do I want to try to get to this next area and cash out? Or do I want to play it safe and cut it short or return to a safe location?
Yeah.
So I've been pushing that a little bit more. There was one time where I'm playing. Sorry. I've got all of this salt saved up. So salt's the way to level up. So I've saved up all the salt.
Yeah.
But I'm so nervous I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And so I'm creeping around the game. And I finally get to the save point. And I was just this huge major sigh of relief because I'm all right, I'm not going to lose all of this leveling up. I'm not going to lose all that. So still enjoying the game. I think it's going to become one of those games that here in the future, maybe I set down and come back to. It's a game that I can play in 10, 15-minute stretches. I think I'm going to need to grind a little bit to level up. I think it would be helpful. I don't think I have to, but I think it would just be helpful.
Yeah, you're better off doing it than not doing it.
Yeah.
You can't
because
hurt.
I'm beating the bosses, but I don't think my stats are as good as they probably should be.
Yeah.
Because I do die a ton. My one negative with the game, I don't feel like the gold matters that much. I feel like I'm losing gold. Yeah, I'm losing gold constantly, and I haven't found something that's really worth me spending it on. So I'm I don't really care if I lose it. Salt's a different thing, but so that's been one little thing. It's I wish there was more value. And again, it may just be that I don't understand everything. And so that's kind of frustrating, but still a good challenge. I'm really interested, in Dead Cells because I know everyone's been loving that. So I'm
so good.
I get Dead Cells. Did you ever play Hollow Knight?
I did. And that game is brutal.
It's hard?
Oh, yeah, dude. If you think Salt and Sanctuary is hard, just wait until you play Hollow Knight. That game will chew you up.
Yeah, it's currently on sale on $10 on the Switch. So I was
that's a good price.
oh, maybe I'll pick up this game. But I'm I don't know if I'll get to it right away, so I might pass. But hopefully by the next time we record, I will have some new games that I've been playing, Senua's Sacrifice. It's kind of that next one on the
Yes.
docket. It's just I need life should be calming down in this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to get some time in there. But that's not been playing a lot other than playing with my daughter, which has
Mm-hmm.
been awesome. But I'm hoping to get in some more games here soon.
Amen, dude. Well, as far as what I've been playing, I'm going to be honest, dear listeners, hasn't really been a whole lot. I'm not going to bore you guys with more Dead Cells talk. You guys can go check that out on the YouTube, youtube.com/the Reformed Gamers. I put up, I think there's 2 videos of Dead Cells gameplay up there that you can check out. One game I do want to talk about, though, and this is another game that we have a preview up for on our YouTube, youtube.com/the Reformed Gamers. The game called Chasm, made by BitKid, that Adam, you actually put on my radar before it came
Yeah.
out. And when I first played it, okay, here's the problem. I played the game on easy, wasn't digging it, wasn't loving it. So I gave up on the game or I should say I put it on the shelf for about a week, and then I came back to it and played it on normal, and I'm like, okay, the extra challenge I'm really digging. I'm liking this game more. And so far, I think I've put 2 to 3 hours into the game total. It's pretty good. Not gonna lie. I'm enjoying the game more now that I'm playing it on normal. And you guys can check that out on YouTube. But for those of you that haven't seen the video or don't even know what the game is, it's a game that's available only on the PS4 and the Vita, I believe, right now. Might be on PC, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me. And the game is a Metroidvania, so that's kind of a buzzword right now. I understand that. But what's interesting about this game is that the map that you get, the world that you play out in, dear listener, is going to be different than the one that I'm playing into, because it's randomly generated and where certain items are, how the maps are laid out and things like that. And you can share codes so you can play together with the same map with your friends. Doesn't really offer any kind of multiplayer or leaderboards, anything like that. It's just like, oh, we're playing on the same map. But it's a cool game. It's got a kind of 16-bit art style, very retro look to it, retro feel, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm enjoying it. It's actually a pretty good Metroidvania style game. I don't think it's gonna be for everybody. It definitely feels more Castlevania than it does Metroid with some of the weapons and things like that. But the way that the story set up, you're this knight and you're going to this mine to rescue people and figure out kind of what's going on there, because you hear these rumblings of like a beast being unleashed and you have to stop it. And so as you rescue different villagers, they unlock different stores. So you'll rescue one person that unlocks the blacksmith. You'll rescue someone and it'll unlock the mage stuff so you can upgrade your spells and all that. It's a really cool way of upgrading the thing. And as you rescue villagers, the town kind of comes back to life and starts building new things, and you see new structures, or you see stores that were previously closed are now open. So it's a pretty cool game. I'm not gonna lie, and the music's pretty good
Nice.
too. I'm enjoying it more than what I did initially, and I'm glad I am, because it is a fun game. It's unfortunate that it came out around the same time as Dead Cells, because I don't think Chasm was gonna get enough attention because of Dead Cells, but I'm just saying, Chasm is a pretty good game. I think it's worth checking out if you're looking for a Metroidvania to play or anything like that. As always, you can go to the YouTube, our YouTube, youtube.com/the Reformed Gamers, and check out the preview that we have on there. I want to say it's a full hour of gameplay, but I might be wrong on that. But either way, it's on there. You can check it out. So it's a cool game. I'm really enjoying it. I'm surprised that I'm enjoying it as much as I am. So there's
Nice.
that. Adam, thank you for the reco.
Yeah, it was one of those games that when I saw it, I don't remember. I think actually I heard about it maybe from Colin Moriarty's podcast. He was talking about it on there, and so I'm like, I need to look this up. And then as soon as I looked it up, I'm like, I got to share this with Logan because
Yeah.
this definitely looks like a game that he'd be down with. So
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be a game that one day I get to. I think it's getting solid reviews. It's not like blowing everybody away, but it's not like this game stinks.
Yeah.
It's very much some of the issues that you get with procedurally generated areas.
Yeah.
I think they're present in this game, but a lot of the other things, it looks like a fun game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is part of it, like if you're not really digging the game, I don't normally recommend this. Start over and regenerate the world and see what you think, because the first couple map layouts I got were kind of bleh, but the one I have now, I'm digging it. It's good.
Nice.
But yeah, so on to what have we been reading, brought to you by Gareth Evans, dear VIP. Thank you, sir, for supporting the show, the $25 tier. on Patreon. Adam, good sir, I know we don't have much time, or we haven't had much time, but man, have you gotten any reading in the past couple weeks?
Dude, I was doing all right towards the end of the summer.
And
And
then
then
it fell apart.
my life, yeah, then RD training hit, then RA training hit. And it was like, I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
I know that
And so I
feeling.
haven't been doing much reading other than trying to get in the Word in the morning, devotionals and things like that. And so what I've been trying to do is we read Bonhoeffer, and I mentioned it, I don't know, a couple months back. Actually, that was the Cost of Discipleship I read this year. For our summer reading with RAs, we did Life Together, and I read that last year, I think. And so one of the things it talks about in that book, like a lot of books, is the idea of meditating on Scripture. And so what I've been trying to do a little bit more is just pick a verse from what I'm reading. Here recently, I've been in Ezekiel and in the Psalms as a part of my reading plan. And so just find a verse, and then I'm throwing it on the home screen of my phone, because we're clicking on our phone all the time, clicking on it. And so on my lock screen, I'm going to start putting just a verse a day. So it takes like 2-3 minutes of work, screenshotting it, editing it, whatever, getting it there. And so the verse today that I had, and I've just been trying to dwell on it, Psalm 37 verse 4, it says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." Pretty well-known verse, not something that we haven't heard. And so as I've been trying to meditate on that today, just this idea of delighting in the Lord, okay, and then he will give you the desires of your heart. If you're delighting in the Lord, he becomes the desires of your heart. So when he's giving you that, he's giving you himself. And so just trying to think, okay, is what I am desiring the Lord? Or am I not, delighting? Am I not feeling like God is giving me the things that I want? Okay, if he's not giving me the things that I want, what am I desiring the wrong things? Like, I talked about it earlier. Am I desiring wanting to play video games more than anything else? Is that why I'm not delighting in my life or in the Lord? Is it something else? Is it time with Hannah or even with Ren? Like, so what am I delighting in? Well, God's telling me to delight in him. Then he's going to give me the desires of my heart. Okay. Those things, they just play together. They just, one leads to the other and the other leads to the one. And so I've just kind of been meditating on that today, of just like, okay, Adam, desire the Lord, and he's going to give me the best thing he can give me. And that's not time to play video games.
Yeah.
That's not more stuff. It's not a new game. It's not more rest. It's himself. And so just trying to reflect on that today. So that's kind of my little thought of what I've been reading and what I've been meditating. Another verse, I don't remember if I talked about this last time we recorded, but I've really been dwelling on this over the last even couple weeks. The idea of, it says in somewhere else in Psalm, I believe, I don't remember what chapter, but it says, "This I call to mind, therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end." So I bring this to mind, and what am I bringing to mind? That his steadfast love never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. And because of those things, I have hope. It's not because of no, I have hope because it's new every morning. He has steadfast love. And, kind of talking about what I was, our adoption earlier. When that is for sure, I can have hope because I'm a son of God. And so those are just some of the things I've been meditating on as I've been reading and just trying to think and dwell on God's word.
It's good stuff, man. So I kind of teased this last episode about a book that I had started reading, but I couldn't really talk about it just yet. But now I can, because I'm about halfway through the book. And that is The Art of Rest by Adam Mabry. He's a pastor up in Boston, Massachusetts. And it's basically all about the Sabbath, about rest, about what that even means and why it's important. And what I think is great about the way that this book is written is that it's written from a pastor's perspective. He's like writing it from a pastor to pastors or people that serve in the church, and like why it's important to rest and kind of how we even get that wrong sometimes, and how we just it's been a challenging read, and it's been interesting that it's been on my mind this much, and that I've been reading through it this week of all weeks, as I've been kind of running nonstop. It feels like, to the point where it's just I'm kind of at a breaking point, where I'm like just wanting to like kind of cry a little bit, and like I can't go anymore. Like I need to just relax. I need a break, And it's interesting how he brought this up, and this quote has just stood out to me ever since I've read it. And he says that the purpose of the Sabbath is not to rest from Jesus, but to rest with Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's so Christian 101, right? But when I read it, it just kind of hit me like, how? Okay, this is a little too close to home for me right now. Because when I rest, I'm going to be honest, just being transparent. I don't open up my Bible. I don't go into prayer when I really, really should. I don't listen to worship music. I don't just sit there and just look back on the week and think of how God got me through all these different situations, and how he gave me wisdom to navigate certain conversations, and how he's just leading me to different steps in life. I want to boot up the PlayStation and play a game and maybe stream for the dear listeners, which isn't wrong necessarily, but I'm not resting with Jesus. I'm resting from Jesus. And that's something that I've noticed has been kind of easy to get into working at a church, is that you get in this mindset of like, you're doing all this stuff for Jesus. You're ministering to kids for Jesus. You're studying the Bible for Jesus. You're reaching out to the elderly in your church for Jesus. And you're doing all this stuff for Jesus. And you're doing all this work, but you're not actually resting in him. And it just kind of, it knocked me back a little bit. It kind of staggered me a little bit. Critical hit, super effective, as they say in Pokemon. But it just got me rethinking a little bit. And so it's just been a perfect book to read during this week, especially because there's been times where I've had to tell myself, like, look, you need to take a break. Just rest a little bit. You can't do everything. You can try, but you ain't gonna do it. I think he said something else in the book about how, like, we can try to work so hard to glorify God, but you can't glorify God if you're on your way to burnout or something like that. And it just, dude knows what he's talking about, and it just, anyway, early reco, Art of Rest by Adam Mabry, fantastic book. I've just been really blowing my mind lately, really enjoying it. So I'll put links to that, and of course anything that we talk about in the show notes. But yeah, so to switch gears a little bit, with this being our patron episode, or dear listener episode, if you will, we're doing a Ask Me Anything this episode here. And so kind of what we did is we threw some questions out to folks over on Patreon. We threw questions out to Twitter, to Facebook. And so we're going to go ahead and just go through these. Not super quick, but quick enough to where we answer them, I guess. Like, I don't want to be like a roadrunner through these things, but
yeah.
But so let's just start off with some of the responses we got from Patreon. Luke Strain asks, are there any games that you love but most people think are bad? If so, what games?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think, like, this is going to sound arrogant, but all the games I like, people generally like, so I can't really...
Oh, you're such a good surveyor of video games.
I only play good games. You know what I'm saying, Adam?
Oh,
except for The Bachelor, but...
we'll get there. We'll get there.
I can't think of it.
You played Final Fantasy 15.
Okay, fair point. I don't know if I really enjoyed that, though. Like, it was okay, but I didn't really, like, sing its praises from the rooftops, if you know what I'm saying.
I think that's the thing. What are some games that we completed just because we wanted to finish them, but we didn't really like them?
I can think of several games. But
Mass Effect Andromeda.
I didn't complete that. I gave up on that.
I completed that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I've got an answer to this question.
Okay, man, you go while I think of one.
I've got an answer. I was looking up the questions that we had listed. So this one is... So I'll just throw it out there. A game, even game series that I like, that I think people throw a ton of shade at. I still like the Call of Duty games. And so
what?
I think they get a lot of hate and shade, they're money hogs. They milk their community for money. I think that has drawn a lot of hate over the years. The fact that they've come out every year a new one, sometimes they're not that much more different. That's got a lot of hate. But when it comes to the shooting mechanics, the game is tight. The gameplay is still usually really, really well done. World War II had a really great storyline. Really enjoyed that. And it's not crazy long, which is usually what I'm looking for nowadays, especially in first person shooters. I'm not looking for a Fallout first person shooter story experience. Give me 5 to 10 hours and I'm good. And so I still enjoy those games. Now, I played Black Ops 3. I played some of Infinity War. Infinite Warfare. That was a game where I wasn't big on the story.
Okay.
Advanced Warfare I thought was pretty good with the Kevin Spacey, storyline there. He was in that one. I enjoyed that one. So I have found that for the most part the story, the gameplay has always been really good. But it's like that low-hanging fruit that everyone loves to bash. Like,
yeah, true.
We may not unite over many things, but we all hate Call of Duty, and I'm like, I like Call of Duty. Like, I don't play them like I used to, of course.
Sure.
I think back the days that I put into Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. I mean, multiplayer like crazy. So as I've shifted as a gamer, I haven't played them as much. But it's not because I hate them. It's just that's not the type of game that I'm playing anymore. And so that's probably my answer is games that a lot of people don't like that I'm down with would be the Call it. Now it'll be interesting. This new one doesn't have a story.
I know. That kind of bums me out.
Online Battle Royale, so it'll be interesting how that plays out for them.
Yeah. It's true. I'm hoping it's still good, but I don't know. That's a conversation for another day. I guess the one game that I love that everybody else seems to hate, I guess, was Fortnite. I'm kind of kidding. Yeah, it's just that's kind of the first one that comes to my mind because it seems like everybody hates Fortnite for some reason, even though there's like a million people that play it. But if I wanted to pick a game that isn't Fortnite, I would probably pick Fury because I don't think a lot of people really love that game because of how hard it is. I actually really, really like it. So, and in front of the show, Jeff Simmons did some of the music for it. So, I mean, I'm gonna take that for what you will. I think it's a fun game. Looks cool. It's a lot of fun to play, but it's not everyone's cup of tea because it's brutally hard.
Yeah, I think of another one because this one's been brought up in the group before. Donkey Kong 64. Another game that I really enjoyed, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, that game was horrible." Like that was one of the most memorable games for me from the 64 era. Like open world exploring, kind of. It had some of those Castlevania type, Metroidvania type elements where you could get to some areas, but you couldn't really get there because you didn't have the powers. So you had to go back to them later. So I really enjoyed Donkey Kong 64, and I know there's a lot of people in that. I guess when this question is very subjective because there are a lot of games, a lot of people hate it, a lot of people like it. There's not a lot of people that are lukewarm.
I just don't know how you like it, man. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Fortnite?
No, I mean, I don't see. Wait, what are we? I thought we were talking about Donkey Kong 64.
I'm talking about that too, but I'm just saying with all games, there's usually that split crowd of, okay, and that's a problem. Again, that's a cultural thing. Everyone's extreme on everything.
True.
And so it's hard to even answer that question because there's a lot of games out there where meh, but I wouldn't say I hate them.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate a lot of things in life.
Yeah, I can't think of any other game really that I love that other people think are bad. So
yeah.
Anyway,
we got questions.
We do too. Real quick, Luke also asked, when is that Bachelor DS game review coming? Never. And I say this not because I'm not going to play the game. I want to play the game. Well, I guess I'm not going to play the game. Here's the thing. I came home from work one day and noticed there was a cartridge laying on the floor all chewed up and mangled to pieces. And my dog apparently really wanted to play the game too, but he doesn't know how to play video games. So he thought if he just chewed on it, he could play the game. So the cartridge is toast. It's weird because I wanted to scold him because he chewed something of mine up. But at the same time, it's a game I only played like 45 cents for. So it's not that big of a deal. I had a hard time trying to figure out how I was going to discipline my dog or just laugh because he was saving me from playing a really bad game. Anyway, so unfortunately there won't be a review for that game coming along anytime soon. Alex Castellanos commented and says, I'd love to hear your testimony. How did each of you come to know Christ, and when did you really decide to follow him wholeheartedly? This could be a whole episode in and of itself just about, but Adam, man, real quick, How did you come to Christ?
Yeah, I'll give a Cliff Notes version. So, growing up in the church, pastor's kid, really have only known church life growing up. And so when I was real little, I was 7. And one thing I remember is, we hear the Christian things a lot. You need to be saved, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And so there was one Sunday night where I was hanging out with the youth at the time. My dad was pastoring a church of maybe 150 or so. And so it was a Sunday night service. And I remember talking to the youth. I was sitting with them. And again, I'm like a little guy, 7 years old. I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever be saved. Just thinking as a kid, like, I just don't know. I just don't think that I'll ever be me. And I don't know if it was that kind of having that thought or that realization or just processing what was going on got me focused more as a 7-year-old. But I remember focusing in more that night at the church service and really wrestling with what that meant. And so after the service, I went up to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I need to be saved. And so we went to his office. It was kind of in an upstairs room at that time. So I went up in his office and, we talked through that and we prayed and, Christ became my savior that night. And so as I, grew, at 7, I believe I was saved at 7. And this is something I wrestled with even later in my life, even right before I went overseas of, okay, when was I really saved? Because at age 7, I said I was saved. That's when I got baptized. But, as a lot of people do, I became more, I really more of my sin as I was older, began able to make more choices for Christ. At a 7-year-old, there's only so many things that you can really do wrong. I don't have a ton of choices. So I remember I rededicated my life at 13. And so I wrestled with, at age 25, okay, was I saved at 7 or was I saved at 13? Because if it was 13, then I need to be baptized again. I'm like, I'm about to go overseas. I'm going to be sharing the good news with people saying you need to be baptized. I need to make sure my baptism is legit if I'm telling other people they need to be baptized. So I wrestled with that for a while, again, at age 25. And after talking with some people, they were saying, okay, when did you start seeing those fruits of salvation? Was it only at age 13? Or did you see some of those as a kid? And I believe looking back, praying for my sister, praying for my brother, wanting them to become Christians, seeing God wanted to bring my friends to church. Now, there's not these huge, like, my theology wasn't deep, but I was seeing fruits of salvation even at a young age. And so I'd say at age 7, I was saved. But as I began to understand who I was in Christ more, I believe my rededication was an important thing because I was, staking that, flag in the ground again of I want to live for Christ. Did my salvation change? No. Was I still a believer from when I was 7? Yes. But for me, it was important just making that recommitment saying, Lord, I want to live for you in a fresh and a new way now that I understand more. And so that's testimony in a nutshell.
Right on, man. I'd say for me, growing up, my grandparents always talked about God, Jesus, what all that meant, him dying on the cross. And I never really understood all of it, but I would go to church with them a couple times. And it wasn't until, say, freshman year of high school that someone in my grade asked me just kind of out of the blue, how's your walk doing? And I'm like, that's such a weird question. Like, I'm not walking with a limp. I'm not like, am I walking weird? Like, what's going on? And they're like, no, like, how's your faith going on? Because I had been going to a Bible club for about a week or so at this point, and they were wanting to know kind of like how I was doing, if they could pray for me. And I was like, I don't really understand what you're asking. And so that led one thing to another. They shared the gospel with me, and I was like, dude, I want that. That sounds awesome. And so it's just been a journey ever since then. Really, I didn't start taking it seriously until I want to say junior year of high school, I think is when my youth pastor came in. Shout out to Michael. What's up, dude? He listens to the podcast, which is awesome. And that was when I started taking it seriously. And then this kind of leads into another question that someone asked on the Facebook group, like, how did I get introduced to Reformed theology? Honestly, Mark Driscoll, apparently a lot of the stuff he was saying, I'm like, oh, I already agree with this stuff. This sounds right. And so it's been a journey ever since. Still growing in it, still learning a lot. But yeah, high school, and then from then on, people want to rag on youth pastors, but if it wasn't for my youth pastor Michael and God using him to speak the gospel, probably wouldn't be here right now. So there you go. But yeah, so there's that. Adam, how do you feel about Reformed theology? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, where are you at on it?
We kind of joked about this way back in the day, like saying we're like the generally reformed gamers.
Yeah, I remember
that. And so I think in many ways I'm still kind of there.
Yeah.
I've read a decent amount of Reformed theology. I agree with the basic tenets. Do I understand all that plays into it? Do I function the same as a lot of Reformed people in regards to some of the Christian liberties? Not necessarily, but do I call those things, specifically looking at tobacco, alcohol, some of those things, and even, I guess, depending on what camp you're in, even in regards to infant baptism.
Oh, whoa, easy there, buddy. Getting me triggered.
And so, I agree with, a lot of most of Reformed theology, even in saying, like, do I think alcohol is a sin? By no means. But is that something that is that something I'm going to take part of in my life? No, I've made that stance pretty clear. That's not something that my family will be involved in, not out of legalism, but out of caution, out of protection, of knowing and seeing the effects that it's had on families. And it's not something I'm drawn to, so I'm not going to do it. There's been times where I'm like, oh, I might want to try that. Now, I've always been in positions of work where I've had to sign some sort of commitment or covenant saying I'm not going to. And so it would be sin because I would be being dishonest if I did that. But so I don't know if I'll ever be in a role where I'm able to. But in regards to proper Reformed theology, do I understand all of the aspects of tulip and predestination and election? I don't understand every little aspect, but while I don't understand, I believe it's biblical. God has chosen some. He has predestined. He has elected us unto salvation. And so while those things are hard, I can't fight against those necessarily and say that they're not true, even if I don't understand some of those paradoxes at times that we see in the Word of God. But I trust God's Word, and I'm going to preach it, and I'm going to teach it, even if it's wrestling with students saying, I don't have a perfect answer, but let's learn together. So that's kind of where I'm at in regards to Reformed theology.
Right on, man. Good stuff. Wesley Ray asks, something I've been pondering this summer. What do you think are the best ways for Christians to start getting into gaming culture and making their mark? Gaming media and culture seems to be a tough place for Christians to thrive and is highly misunderstood by so many churches. What are some steps we can take to bring our witness to a culture that is largely antagonistic to us? Start the Reformed Gamers and change the world. There you go. No, I just, Adam, what do you think, man?
No, you start this one off. I started the last one off.
Oh, okay.
You jump in on this, and then
Okay.
I'll add the commentary.
Well, I mean, I think my thing is like you look at the example of Jesus, he met people where they were at to minister the gospel to them. And so it's just we as gamers, that's easy for us. We get into games, we're in game lobbies, we play games, we meet people through gaming. And so we can reach people for the gospel through video games. Even though churches may not understand that for a large part, or there are some churches who do understand that. But the thing is just it's no different than how we kind of tackle evangelism. You know, we're intentional about it. And I'm not saying you make friends just to share the gospel with them, but it's when you make friends, start thinking about how you can share the gospel with them. You know, and that's one of the things that I hope that this podcast has kind of helped with, because we've played games from God of War to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and kind of connected the dots a little bit to hopefully help you have those conversations with your friends. You know, when you and your friends are playing Rise of the Tomb Raider and they're talking about Trinity and all these different religious terms, you know, hopefully you can make conversations about that. But I think even just kind of helping your church leaders understand the importance of, maybe not the importance, but the, I guess, relevance of video games, like showing like, dude, esports, like what was it last week? There was like a Overwatch or Dota league. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. There was some kind of esports thing on ESPN last week or something. Like, that's now on television for everyone to watch, pretty much. You know, so it's a big thing. And plus, a lot of students that are visiting your church's youth group play video games. Probably everyone in your youth group's playing Fortnite. Find ways to connect you with your students that way. So in terms of getting into gaming culture, keep playing the games you play, but keep an open mind about how your gaming connects to your Christianity, your faith, you know, and bring that into it, you know, and have those conversations with students. I have conversations with students frequently about why I don't play games like Grand Theft Auto. It's like, look, I just don't want to set that stuff before me. You know, I'm not judging you for playing it, though it's a little weird that your parents allow you to do it. You know, but it's I guess just bring that into it. You know, you don't leave your Christianity at the door when you play a game. You know, bring it in and let it wrestle with the stuff you're playing, and then kind of let that influence the games you pick, and let it go from there. But I would even say that if you're going to build a platform too, kind of like what we've done here at the Reformed Gamers, use it. You know, use it to share the gospel. Yeah. Don't just say you're a Christian podcast and you never bring up the gospel. You know, that was something I wrestled with the longest time, is like, can you really call yourself a Christian podcast if you never bring up the gospel? It's like, oh, you don't cuss. Cool. There's a lot of other non-Christian podcasts that do that. You know, you got to find a way to stand out. And I think just being authentic about it and not shying away from it, we'll get an audience and we'll get you a platform, and you know, you use that to God's glory. So
I think that what you said there at the end is good, and that's why, not to act like I made some big changes to the podcast when I joined, but I'm like, if we're a Christian gaming podcast, we should be talking about, let's talk about what we're reading.
Yeah,
whether that's
that was a good addition.
From a book. And so just so that's something that kind of sets us apart in different ways. Like, we talk about video games. I tell people that when we're doing the podcast, or when they ask about the podcast, I'm like, we're nerds. We talk about video games. We do it unapologetically, but we also talk about serious things. We're talking about what we're reading and how that's affecting us. We talk about how our worldview affects the way and the type of games we play. And so that's what I've loved about doing the podcast. And I think the way that I kind of engage this question of, you know, how do we begin making their mark, not feeling like we have to do it on a large scale. The ways that I've been able to do that in my job with students as they play video games, and talking about whether it's time management, talking with my coworkers as I talk about video games, and I'm just getting them, you can do this for the glory of God, but you have to be wise about it. You can't just binge play, and why haven't you and I play a lot of video games recently? Because they have a proper priority in our life. And so trying to instill that on those who are under our influence, whether that's youth or college students or their coworkers or those in our church. Not just talking about them in a shameful way. Like, yeah, there's some people, I don't want them to know I play video games, but like I talked to the president of our university about video games. Why? Because he likes to play Halo. I'm talking about how I'm using that. I'm talking about the podcast. So thinking about those in our world of influence and then talking about how we can redeem gaming and maybe gaming culture. And, I love the episode we did with Matt Millsap and seeing
Yeah.
the things that he's doing out at Midwestern and knowing that him and some guys here at Cedarville are presenting papers at ETS on video game stories. Like, that's a great way of bringing Christianity and gaming culture together. Now, will we ever be on IGN? Will we ever be on some of those big? I don't know, but that's okay. Because if they're going to ask me to compromise things to get to that platform, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are people that are going to be drawn to us because of our ability to talk about video games, but also talk about our faith. And that's one thing I love about Cedarville is like we're unapologetic about our love for the Word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. That shuns some people, but it also is a draw. It attracts a lot of people because so much of our culture and our world bashes that and is going either liberal or antichrist or whatever you want to call it. Even our Christian universities, like they're not really teaching the Word of God, and so places that do that well, people are drawn to that. Is it going to attract everybody? No, but those who draw it are, love it. And I think that's the same thing with our podcast. We may not draw thousands and thousands of people, but I hope and I pray that those who are drawn, we're helping influence and meeting something that is enjoyable and meaningful to them because we're kind of, we're serious about our walk with the Lord. We're serious about our jobs, our families, but in many ways we're serious about video games, but we understand that priority.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I was going to add something. I just lost it. So I guess that just means I don't need to say it. So let's switch over to some responses we got over on Facebook. Jesse Knopp, my boy Jesse Knopp says, if you could abolish such harsh language, if you could abolish any one game from ever existing, what game would it be and why?
Shoot.
Oh, that's a hot one. I feel like Jesse's thinking I'm going to say Final Fantasy VII, but I'm not going to say Final Fantasy VII because I actually enjoy that game.
I'm trying to think of some of those old school like Nintendo games that were just impossible. That felt crazy hard, but I can't think of one. I think, and again, I'm not saying this to throw shade at Jesse. I don't speak usually in such harsh language
where
snap.
I want to
abolish. I'm not going to abolish or hate. I kind of said that earlier. That's just not how. And again, I'm not saying that I'm better than Jesse, but that's just not how my brain clicks a lot of times. Is I'm just like, oh, I don't like it. It's whatever. I'm going to toss it aside because I think of something like Final Fantasy 15. I did not enjoy that game. It's not for me. Do I hate it and do I want to throw it into the abyss? Not necessarily. That game is just not for me.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I land on some of that stuff. But I know you're such a passionate guy, Logan, that you've got to come up with one.
I've got one in the chamber I can use, and it's Octopath Traveler. I'm kidding, dear listeners. I'm kidding. Calm down.
What?
A little bit of a curveball. No, if there's one game I could abolish, dear listeners, you're never allowed to play this game now as of this episode. No one's gonna take me seriously. But I would actually get rid of Mass Effect Andromeda. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it. Do a do-over. Make a better game. Just get it out of the franchise. It's such a blight. I'm not gonna get on that pedestal again, but that's the one I would pick out of all the games in the world. We can keep The Bachelor, but get rid of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Here's one that I might, and I don't say this for any reason, not because it's a bad game. I wish I could abolish it, and then they decide to bring it to the Switch. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I don't have a Wii. I can't play it. I would like to play it on my Switch. So if I could abolish it and destroy it for the Wii, but yet revive it and bring it to the Switch. That's like the one Switch game that I've like, or not Switch game, Zelda game that's like, well, not one, but like that's like eluding me. I
Right.
never played like Cap. I know a lot of people liked it. I never played.
Mm-hmm.
Dang it, there's the one on the Game Boy that a lot of people like. Um,
Oh, was it
dang,
like the Oracle of Seasons or something like that?
no, 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 no. Shoot. Anyways,
Game
you
Boy.
guys will let me know. But there was
Hmm.
another one on the Game Boy that was real popular that a lot of people like. I can't think of it, but the one that I've wanted to play, I literally have a copy of it. I have a copy of Skyward Sword, but I don't have a way of playing it. I'm like, I have a gun.
That's just torturing
So,
yourself, man.
so that maybe that's why I needed Abolish, just so that it's not torturing me that I've got this Zelda game that I can't play because I
There
don't
you
have a
go.
Wii.
There you
I could
go.
probably go buy one for $10, but I don't
Probably.
want motion. I don't want to use motion controls. I just want to play a
Yeah.
normal Zelda game.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Last one from Facebook. Eric Holloway asks, how do you guys, we get this one a lot. How do you guys manage to make time to read all of these books? I am terrible at time management and would like some help so I can read more. Pro tip, Eric, don't sleep. No, I'm kidding.
So
I'm
basically,
kidding. Don't do that. Please get your sleep. I just talked about how important rest is. Um, I don't know, like I feel like we've answered this a couple times, but I don't remember what episodes we did answer it on. Adam, I mean, my thing is just it's all about priorities, man. I mean, there's times you got to put the controller down and just make time to read and find stuff that you actually want to read too. I mean, that's kind of one of the perks of not being in seminary anymore is we get to read books that we actually want to
yeah,
read. So that's really helpful. But yeah, there's times where I just put the controller down, I power off the game console and get a cup of coffee or something and just read for 45, 30 to 30 minutes to an hour or something and just knock it out. It's
yeah,
all about just, I mean, what do you want to do with your free time? If you want to read more, then read more. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude when I say that, but I mean, that's what we do is, if you want to read more, then make time to do it. We all have
Do
24
it.
hours, so maybe don't play a game one night or something.
Yeah, as I think about that question, I think of okay, you just got to recognize the seasons of life
Yeah.
and make adjustments as needed. And so, like, I'm in this transition period of going from summer into school life. Okay, I haven't got any reading really in these last 3 weeks, but now that it's beginning to settle back down, I've got to begin evaluating okay, how am I going to get this time in to do something that I want to do, like read? And so that might be getting up earlier in the morning to either get my quiet time in so that I'm not putting that in later in the day. It might be setting the controller down. It might be leveraging time when Rin is napping. There's a lot. It may be reading at bed, at night when we're getting in bed instead of pulling out my Switch or something like that. So just kind of looking at life and being like, okay, what's something that I can maybe shed to do this? You can't do everything. Major pro tip for life there. You can't say yes to everything. You can't do everything. Every time you say yes to something, you're very likely saying no to something
Yeah.
else. And that could just be rest. It could be sleep. It could be quiet, sitting in the quiet and just soaking. So understanding that when you say yes, I'm going to read this book, you're saying no to something else. It's just making sure it's to the right things
Yeah.
and not to things that are, you may need to say no to the book if it means saying yes to something else that is of higher priority. I love reading. I have not read as much as I've wanted this year. Why is that? Because my daughter is a higher priority. My wife is a higher priority.
Yeah.
I've spent more time with them. That's a worthy thing to me compared to reading a book. So
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go, Eric. Hope that helps you out. Adam, real quick, because we're running short on time, we're going to do a speed round with some questions
let's
here.
go.
Rapid fire. We're just going to read the question and then answer with the first thing that comes to our mind. So if you guys ask a question about what our eschatology is, we'll probably shout unicorn. So here we go. First question from Austin Gudo. I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong. What's the most mind-blowing storyline plot twist you've experienced in a game? Adam, would you kindly let Austin know?
Spoiler. This is a spoiler for A Way Out. a game I played. This isn't probably the most mind blowing,
Oh
but it's
yeah.
the one that came to mind first. So, spoiler for A Way Out. If you don't want to spoil, stop listening. At the end of that game, there's a twist where one of the guys he's a cop, and you don't really know that. Like they've kind of made this, and then you find out the cop in the last. You think the game is coming to the end, and then the last hour of the game is really you're fighting this other character that you just did this whole story with. Extremely interesting. Made the game like worth it at the end because part of the game I'm like this is kind of lame, but once I got to the end and that happened, I'm like, oh, this is good. And so that's probably the one that comes to mind first.
Right on. Well, I already subtly snuck mine in, so if you didn't catch it, you didn't play the first BioShock. So, Jesse Penny asks, how have you guys balanced gaming with being married?
Yeah, I kind of just talked about this briefly. Finding time to do it when my wife's not home. So when she's gone, I try to prioritize gaming. That's a big one for me. Trying to find games that she can play. That's one thing. She tried a lot harder at that when we were newlyweds. She's like, oh, I want to do this with you now that we're like an old married couple. She's like, nah, I'm cool. I don't care. I'll watch something on the iPad. But just recognizing that my marriage is more important than video games.
Yep.
So if I need to set video games down for my marriage to be healthy, I have to do that.
Yep. Same thing here. It also helps that my wife, we've kind of found some games that we can play together. And so there's moments where we get to play games together, and there's moments where we just shut the consoles off and watch YouTube or something on Netflix. Also, I think side note, Jesse, there's an episode we did with Alex Humphrey from the former Rugged Marriage. Can't remember what episode it is, but it's in our backlog. Check that out. It was really good. Christian Moore asked, what is the most embarrassing game that you enjoyed? Adam? What do you think?
Oh, I had one earlier. I'm trying to think.
What's that game?
Oh, Pokemon Snap.
There's a game on the PS4 that I played. It has cats, and I can't remember what it is. It's Aqua Kitty. You know, Aqua Kitty's a good one.
Is one of them.
Aqua Kitty's kind of embarrassing. You bring that up at a party, like, what's Aqua Kitty? Are you kidding me? It's like, no, it's a great game. Whatever.
I feel like if you play Dragon Ball Z, any of those games, I don't play them because I would be too embarrassed.
True.
But throwing straight, like, anime is just not my thing. One of my RAs has got into it, and I'm like, this is craziness. And so that would be one for me. But yeah, Pokemon Snap, it's like you're literally going around in a cart taking pictures of Pokemon.
It's like, classic.
Why do I like this game so much? I don't know, but I do.
Because you're capturing Pokemon, man, but in a good way. Bradley McFadden says, if you could develop games for a previous console, what console would it be and why? Easy. Nintendo GameCube, because it was my favorite Nintendo console, even though it didn't sell well, but it was still a great console. Loved that thing.
Hashtag Vita Life.
Oh, snap.
Keeping it alive, keeping it going, bringing all these great games that I never got to play to handheld mode. Vita Life. I'd create some more for the Vita, and no one would buy it, but that's okay. The Vita lives on.
You're still rocking that yacht on Vita Island, it seems.
Oh yeah, man.
Richard golly, words are hard. Richard Marroquin says, do you ever find yourself getting overly emotionally attached to video game characters? Only when I played Persona 4 Golden and what is that little girl's name?
Was it Nanako?
Nanako, yeah, dude. Just the story goes a certain way with that character, and it's like very gut wrenching, and it made me tear up a couple times. So it depends on the game. Persona 4 Golden is one that I can remember from recent memory that did that. I got attached to all the characters, and just loved them all. But it depends on what game it is. If it's a game like Persona 4 Golden, yes. If it's a game like Call of Duty, don't care. You know,
Kratos and God of War, man, that was mine.
Ooh,
like seeing him and the boy.
Yeah.
Like that journey was one where I'm like, wow, I am down.
Yeah, man.
Like the tension, and we talked about it in that episode. Go back and listen to it. But man, a very emotionally gripping video game story.
Very good stuff. And then last but not least, Tiny Johnny on Twitter says, what game series and or company is ripe for a comeback.
I've said it once. I've said it a million times. Give me Mario Strikers on the Switch. I'll never stop until it's done. I want it. We're ready. Mario Tennis Aces is out. Get Mario Soccer. People love FIFA. People love Mario. Let's merge them again. Or NBA Street.
Or NBA Street. There you go. You know what? I'm going to say this one. Earthworm Jim. No better time to bring that one back, dude. Yeah, you got the retro platformers like all the rage right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Bring it back. Right. Bring it back. Save the gym. Save the Earthworm Gym. Anyway, dear listeners, thank you for the questions you submitted. Sorry we can't get to all of them. There's just so many we got, so many good ones, but we can only fit so much into the time frame of the show. But with that being said, it is our thank you to our patrons episode. For those of you that support us on Patreon, even at the $1 tier and up, you get a shout out once a month here on the show. Thank you for your support. Thank you for just being there for the show, pledging your money and praying for us and interacting with all of our posts on Patreon. Let's see if we can make through this list. Those patrons are, shout out to you guys. Thank you for supporting us. Patreon.com/TheReformedGamers. Those patrons are Alex Castellanos, Alex Hooper, Caleb Schmidt, Christopher Commander, one of our new patrons, David Matthews, David Skinner, Derek Smith, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Jake Walker, Jeff Wofford, Jesse Penu, Josh Broccolo, Luke Strain, Micah Hendrick, Michael Toller, Mitch Etheridge, the Jet Islander Podcast, Wesley Ray. Sorry if I butchered anybody's names, but guys, thank you so much for supporting us at patreon.com/thereformedgamers, helping us keep the lights on, keeping the controllers charged, and keeping the coffee hot. We appreciate your support over there. Before we let you go, episode 125 is coming to a close, but as always, before we let you go, some recos. Adam, good sir, some recos brought to us by Eric Bryant and David Skinner. What are we doing, man? What do you want to reco to the dear listeners this week?
Again, I take my recos seriously. Life has been crazy, so I don't have one this week, so I'm going to have to throw a pass out there.
Fair enough. My two recos are, again, reco this at the top of the show, Art of Rest by Adam Mabry, and then to follow that advice with just get some rest. Stop trying to do so much that you burn yourself out. Just rest. And the fact that even while you're resting, God's still working and his will be accomplished, even while you're taking a nap. And it's okay to nap in the promises of Jesus because he says it in Scripture to do so. So check out the book, get some rest, and enjoy that time. Dear listeners, as always, thank you for checking out this episode of The Reformed Gamers. If you like what we do here at the show, you can go over to patreon.com/TheReformedGamers to pledge your support as low as just $1 a month, even goes a long way in helping us keep this show running and producing new content for the website, streaming, and all that fun stuff. As always, you can check us out on youtube.com/TheReformedGamers for gameplay, Twitch stream archives, which, by the way, if you are not following us on Twitch, head over to twitch.tv/TRG podcast. Try to stream mostly on the weekends, so Friday, Saturday, that kind of thing. Subscribe there, follow button. That way you always get notified when we go live. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can join the Facebook group, The Reformed Gamers. And you can go over to the website, thereformedgamers.wordpress.com, to check out articles such as Why I Quit Kingdom Hearts, show notes, and anything else that we get uploaded over there. But, dear listeners, till next time, GG and amen.